Hey everyone! Hello from a very rainy afternoon where I am today. This is Elle and welcome to the series. This series is titled Elle Reads, and in this series, I said series so many times. In this series, I read a book. I sit down with a book and I read it to you. So in the first two episodes of these first book that I'm reading for this series, I felt like the episodes were too long. So I decided that from here on out, I will keep it short. I will just read a few pages instead of trying to finish a whole chapter per episode. So for today, we are going to continue reading Calm the F Down by Sarah Knight, How to Control What You Can and Accept What You Can't so you can stop freaking out and get on with your life. And if you ask me, this book is something that all of us could read right now. So there's that. Alright, so I'm gonna pick up where I left off last time. Subtitle, The Four Phases of Freaking Out. So Sarah Knight says, in my previous books, I've been known to offer a neat taxonomy of the different types of readers who could benefit from taking my advice. I do this because I find that encountering a somewhat personalized profile helps one feel seen, which is comforting when one is about to be smacked upside the head with some decidedly uncomfortable truths. Which makes it unfortunate for you and me both that freaking out how everybody does it and why is all over the map. Some of us don't blink an eye when our septic tanks back up, but hyperventilate if Starbucks runs out of almond croissants. Others pull a cool hand look when the car gets towed or the test results come back positive, but reach our own personal DEFCON 1 when the cable goes out during America's Next Top Model. Furthermore, freaking out manifests in different strokes for different folks. For some, it's the open-mouthed, panic-sweating countenance of a Kathy cartoon from the 80s, Ack. But for others, freaking out is more about tears than tremors, or black moods, or blank stares. And to top it all off, any one of us might experience a different form of freak out on a different day for a different reason. For example, you may not be a big dumb crybaby like your friend Ted who spends all day posting feeling emotional emoji on Facebook, but if you lose your wedding ring or your grandma, you're liable to get a little weepy. And I don't typically waste my breath screaming and shouting, but one time in 2001, I opened the refrigerator door on my foot and the resulting spittle-filled tirade was not unlike Jack Nicholson's turn on the stand in A Few Good Men. As I said, all over the map. So instead of trying to fit you as an individual freaker-outer into one tidy category, I've winnowed the types of freakouts themselves into four big, messy categories, any one or more of which you might fall into at any given time. Anxiety, sadness, anger, avoidance, aka Ostrich mode. These are the four phases of freaking out. The masks we wear when we worry obsessively and, it's getting hard to breathe up in this piece. Your job is to learn how to recognize them so you can fight back. Know your enemy and all that. First, anxious. What it looks like. Anxiety comes in many forms, and for the uninitiated, it can sometimes be hard to label. For example, you may think you've got a touch of food poisoning when your upset stomach is actually due to anxiety. Or you might think you've been poisoned when really you're just having an old-fashioned panic attack. Been there, thought that. Other indicators include, but are not limited to, nervousness, headaches, hot flashes, shortness of breath, lightheadedness, insomnia, indecision, the runs, and compulsively checking your email to see if your editor has responded to those pages you sent an hour ago. And remember, you don't have to be diagnosed with capital A anxiety disorder to experience lowercase a anxiety. Plenty of calm, rational, almost always anxiety-free people go through occasional bouts of situational anxiety. Good times. Now, why it's bad? Apart from the symptoms I listed above, one of the most toxic and insidious side effects of being anxious is overthinking. It's like that buzzy black housefly that keeps dipping and swooping in and out of your line of vision, and every time you think you've drawn a bead on it, it changes direction. Up in the corner. No, wait. Over there by the stairs. Uh-oh, too slow. Now it's hovering 3 feet above your head, vibrating like the physical manifestation of your brain about to explode. Where do you want to be, housefly? Make up your mind. Overthinking is the antithesis of productivity. I mean, have you ever seen a fly land anywhere for more than 3 seconds? How much could they possibly be getting accomplished in any given day? What can you do about it? You need to Miyagi that shit. Focus. One problem at a time, one part of that problem at a time. And most important, one solution to that problem at a time. Lucky for you, part 2 contains many practical tips for accomplishing just that. Keep reading is what I'm saying. Sad. What it looks like. Weeping, moping, rumpled clothes, running mascara, the scent of despair, and heaving breathless, heaving breaths. It can also lead to a condition I call social media self-pity, which is tiring not only for you, but also for your friends and followers. Cut it out, Ted. Nobody wants to watch you have an emotional breakdown in Garfield memes. Why it's bad. Listen, I've got absolutely nothing against a good cry. You worry that your childhood home is going to be bulldozed by evil city planners or that your hamster ping pong might not make it out of surgery. By all means, ball it out. I do it all the time. Catharsis. Just try not to, wallow. When worrying becomes wallowing, letting sadness overtake you for long periods of time, you've got bigger problems. Ongoing sadness is exhausting. As energy flags, you might stop eating or leaving the house, which compounds the encroaching lethargy. You'll get less and less productive, and all of that can lead to feeling depressed and giving up on dealing with your shit altogether. But to be clear, being sad, even for a messy, depressing stretch, is one thing. Having clinical depression is another. If you think you might not be merely sad, but fully in the grip of depression, I urge you to seek help beyond the pages of a $20 book written by a woman whose literal job is to come up with new ways to work F into a sentence. Though if that woman may be so bold. Depression, like anxiety, can be hard to suss out when you're the detective and your own head is the case. Do yourself a favor and listen to people around you when they say, "Hey, you seem not merely sad, but fully in the grip of depression. Maybe you should talk to a professional?" And don't be ashamed about it. All kinds of people, even ones with objectively hunky-dory lives, can suffer from depression. Mental illness is a bitch. All of this is to say, I may not be qualified to diagnose or treat you for depression, the disease, but under the auspices of Calm the F Down, title of the book, I think feeling depressed, the state of mind, is fair game. And to my mind, the state is exhausted. So what can you do about it? Patience, my pretties. We're gonna get you up and out of bed sooner rather than later. It's what Ping Pong would have wanted. Stage 3. Angry. What it looks like. Painful encounters with fridge doors notwithstanding, I don't tend to get angry. Maybe it's because my parents didn't fight in front of me. Maybe it's just my natural temperament. Or maybe it's because I'm a stone cold bitch who skips getting mad and goes straight to getting even. But even though I don't do a lot of yelling, screaming, wishing boxes on people, or setting fire to their prized possessions myself, that doesn't mean I don't know the drill. Those in the throes of anger experience unhealthy side effects such as rising blood pressure and body temperature, the desire to inflict physical violence, and the injury sustained upon doing so, splotchy faces, clenched jaws, and unsightly bulging neck tendons. But an invisible, though no less damaging, result of an angry freakout is that it impedes good judgment. It makes things worse. Why it's bad. In the age of smartphone cameras, every meltdown is a potential 15 minutes of infamy. Do you want to wind up on the evening news spewing regrettable epithets? Or on Facebook Live destroying public property because you couldn't calm the F down? No, you do not. Behold, Mexican Airport Syndrome. So, Mexican Airport Syndrome. Once upon a time, my husband and I were returning from a family vacation that had been organized by a travel agent. Somehow, when the 13 of us got to our connecting flight in Mexico City, I didn't have a ticket. Not a seat assignment, mind you, but an effing ticket. Who knows what had happened, but you know what doesn't fix it? Getting all up in the face of the airline employee manning the check-in desk. My sweet, generous, kind, typically very calm husband nearly learned this lesson the hard way when he lost his shit on one of said employees for about 3.2 seconds before I elbowed him in the ribs and communicated, I don't want to get detained overnight or forever in Mexico City with my eyes. Also saving his tocineta that day was the Long Island mom who was having the same problem and dealing with it in an exponentially worse way. Do you know that she was a very important bar mitzvah to attend tomorrow? Right. I got on the plane, she didn't. So going back to anger, what can you do about it? Well, you could take an anger management class, but that doesn't sound very pleasant. I have a few stimulating alternatives I think you're going to like. We'll get into that much later. P.S. If I'm being honest, I'm curious about what it'll take to activate my anger face. It's been a good 15 years since the refrigerator incident, and Yakul is only human. Lastly, we have avoidance, aka ostrich mode. What it looks like. The tricky thing about ostrich mode is that you may not even realize you're doing it because, quote, doing it is quite literally, quote, doing nothing, unquote. You're just ignoring or dismissing warnings and pretending like shit isn't happening. Nothing to see here, folks. Head firmly in the sand. By the way, I know these giant birds do not really bury their disproportionately tiny heads in the sand to escape predators, but I need you to lighten up a little when it comes to the accuracy of my metaphors. Otherwise, this book will be no fun for either of us. Sorry I'm laughing. My puppy is doing something he shouldn't be doing right now. Going back to the book. Now, sometimes the ostrich stands alone if you're merely putting off a mundane chore that's pure unadulterated avoidance. Other times, ostriching is a result of having already succumbed to anxiety, sadness, and or anger. In those moments, it feels like your brain is a pot of boiling lobsters, and if you can just keep the lid tamped down tightly enough, maybe you'll never have to confront your silent screams. This is typically when I dive headfirst for the couch pillows. Why it's bad? First of all, undealt with shit begets more shit. Ignoring a jury summons can lead to fines, a bench warrant, and a misdemeanor on your permanent record. Pretending like you haven't developed late-life lactose intolerance can lead to embarrassing dinner party fallout. And refusing to tend to that pesky wound you got while chopping down your Christmas tree may mean spending the new year learning to operate a prosthetic hand better than you can operate an axe. And second, while I concede that willfully ignoring whatever shit may be happening to you is a shrewd means of getting around having to acknowledge, accept, or address it, guess what? If your worries have sent you into ostrich mode, you haven't actually escaped them. You'll be sitting right outside your hidey hole the next time you lift your head. Hey guys, touche. Avoidance means never ever solving your problem. So what can you do about it? Great question. Just by asking, you're already making progress. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you like this series and that you will wait for the next upload. Until next time, this is Elle. This has been Elle. Bye bye.